Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Punisher, the Platoon, issue number 6 of 6. Alright, good news and bad news. Bad news, this one is over. Good news, we'll get to that. So, this finishes out. This basically, for the most part, this is really just the battle between Punisher and Lie. She jumps on his back and starts stabbing the heck out of him, like 5, 6, 20 times, whatever. And he's able to land backwards on a tree stump, probably paralyzes her, definitely breaks her back. Like, she's out of it. And then he gets down. Maybe he even says something to her. I don't know. Just like it said, it's none of our business. So he kills her. It looks like it. Kills her. And, wow. So the Colonel, brother Colonel, he's really upset by this. Kwong, that's the general's son who is assigned to the brother Colonel. He's supposed to, learn from him. He doesn't. he's shouting the heavens smile down at us. The heavens will make us win today. I love that the general says, no, today God is an American. like this guy, I want to know more about this guy's story. So I want to know more about this general's story. The guy is a freaking genius, Absolutely amazing. I love the way that he's portrayed in this. God, what else happens in this book? For the most part, it's just a bunch of goodbyes, I really liked the last page. I loved the last page. I love that he said, yeah, he won't wave back. Yeah, well, Frank did wave back. He just waited until you weren't looking. This was good. This was really good. I loved this. So, basically, Garth Ennis is just doing this as, I don't know, a love letter to, as he says, the time when America's history went wrong. And I can't disagree, I've got a lot of my own complaints about the direction that America headed and has been heading, and where we're headed now. You know what I'm saying? It's a shame. It really is. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like you celebrate the heroes, but what the heck were they fighting for? It's sad. It's messed up. It's not cool. It's not the way I want my legacy to go down. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get it. I get it. Anyway, there's a lot of military jargon in this one. For the most part, I think most of it's been covered. Most of the stuff that was in here that I think won't be very easily understood was the jargon between the fighter pilots. This is technically the Air Force, but the Air Force is essentially a part of the Army at this time in Vietnam history. In Vietnam. So, the Air Force wasn't necessarily an independent part of the time. You signed up for the Army in order to go to the Air Force, so to speak. Anyway, what do you call it? So, I didn't understand any of that jargon myself. My father would have. He was in the Air Force. But I don't. I was Army, so I have no idea. Not no idea, but the same me looking on Google to find this stuff is the same as you looking on Google to find this stuff. Anyway, so whatever. This was I don't even know where to go with this comic. Whatever. This was a really good comic book, and of course I'm giving this an A+. This was fantastic. It's just it's bittersweet. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are real people's stories, even though they're in comic books. For the most part, these stories are really people's stories, and I love that. And I kind of hate it at the same time, but it's hard to not get, for me at least, to not get immersed in this. Anyway, I don't know. I've got, I myself, I can think of so many stories about so many things that happened here. I remember, one part earlier on in the comic book, not this issue, one of the previous issues, one of the guys says, oh, Americans with their, their bombs and things like that, they're cowards' weapons. And the colonel, he goes and says, so you're telling me that strategically, if you had these weapons, you wouldn't use them? You wouldn't deploy them? And it's funny because I had pretty much the exact same conversation in Egypt one time. And sitting there, and there's just this big dude who's actually into judo, heavyweight. He makes an emphasis, heavyweight judo. Dude's a lot bigger than me. I'm 6'5". This guy was easily 6'7", 6'8". Dude is huge. In a fight against this guy, I could not wrestle him. I could not use any of my wrestling except to try and run and get away and just keep trying to keep it a distance. But even then, his reach is longer than mine, It's just, he's not good at striking. Anyway, whatever, not the important part. The thing is, I knew I didn't want to get into a physical fight with this guy, but he was itching for a physical fight. Here's this American, former military, you know what I'm saying, former infantry, and he was a reservist. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because he's saying as a reservist in the Egyptian army, I forget if he said he was in for 1 year or 2 years. I forget. I think it's supposed to be 2 years. They're mandatory conscription over there, especially if you're going to go to college. Then you have to go for like more. I think 5 years, whatever it is. Anyway, no expert. If there's an Egyptian, reading this, by all means, please correct me in the comments below. But I think he was in for 2 years. And he says the entire time he was in, he fired one clip of bullets. And it was literally just they gave him a clip for his rifle and said, here you go. This is what it feels like to shoot a machine gun. Shoot. So he just, just emptied it. It's like, oh, it's pretty cool. But it's like, are you serious? All that time in the army, even if it was just 1 year. I think it was 2 years, though. Like, that's really all you got? But I remember, so he's like, yeah, I was in the military, but like we didn't receive any kind of training. The lifers got training. We were just like, yeah, whatever, stay over here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, in many ways, it's kind of good. In other ways, not so much. You're not going to get a very good standing army. Like our reservists and National Guardsmen are better trained than that, Anyway, so, and I remember my transition from Army to National Guard was one of those things where it's like, oh my God, these guys are ate the hell up. They're a soup sandwich, But anyway, I remember he had that conversation like, you Americans, man, you don't know how to fight. You're just good at throwing things. I'm like, throwing things? He's like, yeah, your missiles and things like that. I was like, okay, we have different words for throwing when it comes to missiles. You're talking about like ballistics? Yeah, a little different. Anyway, so I didn't even think to say, so you wouldn't use these things? Rather, I just got really personal with them because I've read the Quran. And I remember saying to this guy, and this guy was actually a Muslim. He wasn't a Coptic or anything. And I remember him, the look on his face when I said this. I said, I remember reading in the Quran that the Prophet had said, if you're, the archer is, and maybe it wasn't in the Quran, maybe it was something else, maybe it was one of the hadith or something like that. Anyway, he goes and he says, the Prophet says, hey man, if the archer is like the key to battle. If you want to win a battle, the archer is the way to go because he can kill from a distance, and keep killing while the other people just struggle. Their whole battle is just to try and reach the archer before they get killed. Like, it was actually it was pretty good, saying it like, for the most part, it's just an observation, if anything else. But this is actually from the Prophet of Islam. He said this. It was recorded and kept for people to read. And obviously this knucklehead, so pretty much it's the exact same thing that the Brother Colonel says. So you're saying that if you were in battle, you wouldn't have paid attention to this? So I said probably the most hateful thing that I could say to this guy, and it's probably going to make a bunch of Americans get hateful too, but I said, what's funny is, since America deploys this tactic more than anybody else, I guess that means that Muslims are better, or that Americans are better Muslims than Egyptians, huh? And the guy just looked at me like, oof, man, I'm surprised he didn't hit me, but whatever. His fault. He shouldn't have started it. Anyway, so this kind of talk, it'll get anybody hot. It'll get anybody hot under the collar. Anyway, this was a fantastic story for me. And the best part, the good news for me, Garth Ennis says that he and the Punisher aren't done. He's planning on writing the next deployment. So when Frank re-ups for his next tour, his second tour of duty, awesome. Which is good, because I guess that means he's going to do all of the tours of duty, which is, I'm excited. I'm excited for something like that. Hey, when he gets to the third deployment, that's when Frank changes his name. He changed it to Frank Castle. That's right. Anyway, this was whatever. This was good. And all I'm going to be doing is just keep on saying this is good. So I'm just going to end the video like that. Anyway, very enjoyable. Definitely grab this. If you didn't grab every issue, I understand, but there's no excuse for you to not grab this in trade paperback. This really is a comic book version of the history of our, of America's history, of partially the world's history, because this had a big effect on the world. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons why America just looked at the world as, you know what? We can go to any old war and build up the profits of the people who we want to profit from this. So yeah. Anyway, it's not something to laugh about. Okay, so also for Garth Ennis is going to be doing a lot more with the Punisher too. He's talking about his second story he's planning on doing also, a little bit different than the Punisher the Platoon situation. Anyway, so more from Garth Ennis. Awesome. I'm in love with it. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.